Going to the theater is a very special experience, regardless of how often you go. It is something to look forward to, get ready for, and get excited about. Ultimately, it is an experience that you want to remember because of how good it was, right? Well, let me tell you, it is so easy to kill someone's vibe if you're not following the theater etiquette. And in this video, I'm going to talk about my 5 worst case scenarios when it comes to not respecting the theater etiquette. But I'm also so keen to hear what your experiences are. What are your major theater pet peeves? Write in the comments below, and let's start with my number 1. I'm sure you won't be surprised to see mobile phones at the top of my list. I hope that by now we all know that theater performances shouldn't be filmed. And this means musical, play, open air theater, none of it. No pictures, no videos. This is something that ushers will very explicitly tell you about and show the signs while you're waiting for the play to start. I'm just going to assume we all know that is the case. So I'm not talking about that mobile phone issue. I'm talking about people checking their phones or being on their phones in some way during the performance. Needless to say, theater is a very dark place in terms of the environment, and the glare of your screen, it cannot go unnoticed. And that goes for the people who are literally next to you and those behind you, and it is so distracting. And it is also a really tricky thing to bring up because you don't know why someone is on their phone at that given moment. Maybe they're waiting for big news, maybe there's something going on in their life that they just have an excuse for to kind of like be on their phone. But at the same time, I really think maybe just then be more subtle about it. It can really fill other people with anxiety. And I know this because I've experienced this. I went to see one of my favorite shows. It was, I think, Dear Evan Hansen. I was having great seats in the house. It was the last time that I'm going to see the show. And there was this guy next to me who was throughout whole first act on the phone, and it's also every 3 to 5 minutes he would do it. And it just ended up during the intermission that I spoke to him and I was like, can you just stop doing it, because it is very distracting and it's ruining my experience, because it's not something that you can easily ignore. In order to avoid that completely, I would say turn off your phone and just enjoy the fact that theater is a place where you can completely shut off from reality and you have an excuse for it. Like, literally, it's the theater etiquette. You shouldn't have your phone on. My second biggest pet peeve when it comes to not respecting the theater etiquette is snacking and drinking. And this is a weird one to bring up because obviously every single theater has a bar, and in that bar you can get the drink of your choice and also a snack. And those snacks range from sweets to crisps to chocolates, like so many different things. I think that there's a just general consensus that you are gonna get those, go to your seat, settle down and consume them before the show. And I think that is the key. It's either before the show or during the interval, or just like keep it for after. But just opening a really noisy pack of crisps during the first scene because you just got it is a no-go. It is very loud. It is distracting. I appreciate that, sometimes you might come to the theater after work or you didn't have a chance to have dinner and things like that, but that is the reason why it is important to be there in time so you get a little bit of a buffer to do things like that. And then actually when you sit down, you're kind of fully ready to enjoy the show. And that means not snacking. The third one is something that I would have hoped I wouldn't even need to mention, but my recent theater experiences reminded me of how annoying it is. And that is, talking at the theater is an absolute no-go for many reasons. Firstly, you are making noises as much as you're thinking that you're subtle and being very quiet about, saying whatever it is so important that you need to say. It is a distraction. You're moving. People around can definitely hear, even if it's just like, they can hear it, and it is distracting because it is quiet everywhere around you, and I guess your senses are a little bit more heightened Also, you're obstructing the view of people behind you. And I was next to a couple in my last play that I went to see where they were chatting throughout it and it just didn't feel comfortable, and ultimately my experience suffered and I wasn't even with them. This also goes for singing during musical theater performances. Even though you know the lyrics, even though you're really excited about it, singing is also not something that you should do, even if you're going to see performance that you really enjoy, because it is all about the community experience of theater and like respecting each other and being very mindful of maybe someone seeing this for the first time. Some people at the theater, not only that they talk, but they also share major spoilers and plot twists, and just because they're excited because maybe they've seen the play before or a musical and they're like, oh, now it's gonna happen this, or now look at this, and they're narrating this to the person next to them. It just ruins the experience for everyone around you. So that is an absolute no-go. Like, don't spoil. And ultimately, I would just say keep it to the minimum, or just try and don't talk at all, because it's nice to be completely immersed in the story that you're seeing. This is the one that I really hope is not common and that it just happened to me, because it is just not cool. But don't put your feet up when you're at the theater. I can't believe I need to say this. Basically, I went to see the play recently, and because it's summer, it's very hot, you know, like this girl was just having her sliders on, and then at some point I just saw she took her sliders off and put her feet up on the kind of like divider between the sections, and I was petrified. I was like, I cannot believe that this is actually something that I'm experiencing at the theater. You wouldn't do this anywhere, hopefully, like in terms of, you know, cinema or even the train. I'm just gonna leave that there without further explanation that I was trying to go into, because I hope it's self-explanatory. The last one is a really big one, and I know that it could be a bit tricky because obviously people go to gigs and people go to different live experiences that have slightly different rules, but when it comes to theater, just don't be late. The time that is stated on your ticket, it is the time when the performance starts. So if it says 7 or 7:30, that is when the performance starts and when the doors shut. If you arrive at 2 minutes past 7, that means that it is very likely you're going to be made to wait for about 15 to 20 minutes until there's like the right time when they're gonna let you into the theater, which means that you will miss some of the play that you were hopefully looking forward to see. Being late is very distracting, because that means that even when you are let into the theater 15 or 20 minutes after the show has started, you need to get to your seat and you need to pass people need to get up. That means they're obstructing you for like a few rows behind them, and there's a lot of commotion. The other thing is also the rows are very closely together, so basically there's like a lot of things that people put down there, like their bags or their drinks and things like that. So it's a very high chance that you actually might be knocking off some things. I witnessed people fall, so it makes a big mess if you are late. And not being late also refers to not being late after the interval when the second act starts. And I appreciate that 20 minutes is not a lot of time, especially if you need to pop to the loo and you need to get a drink and there's queues everywhere. But bear that in mind before you decide which one you're going to prioritize, or at least like if you're with someone, then split and maybe this person can go get the drink, you can, you know, go to the toilet and vice versa. Also, you can potentially pre-order your drinks and then you just go and pick them up, and this can really solve the issues in terms of waiting. That's it. Rant over. Not that I don't have a few more pet peeves up my sleeve, but I will save them for maybe part 2 of the video, because I really want to hear what are your worst experiences when it comes to violation of the theater etiquette. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe, because I talk about theater every week.